Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes life shatters in a moment. Everything we built, everything we held dear, crumbles at our feet. This is the story of a woman who lost everything, but instead of becoming bitter, she chose grace. And in doing so, she rose from her ashes stronger than ever before. Let me take you into her journey. She wasn't born different. She was like many of us, full of dreams, full of plans. But life has a way of testing the strongest hearts. One by one, she watched the pillars of her life fall: her family, her home, her career, her identity. But while the world saw a woman broken, she saw something else, a chance to rebuild from the inside out. Let's learn from her courage. Her story teaches us four life-changing truths, so let's explore four key points. Number 1. Grace begins when control ends. There comes a moment in life when everything we tried to hold together begins to fall apart. We try so hard to keep control of circumstances, relationships, outcomes, even our emotions. We think if we just manage things well enough, nothing will collapse, but sometimes life doesn't cooperate. The unexpected happens, the job is lost, the relationship ends, the diagnosis comes, and in those moments we find ourselves powerless. That's where many give up. But for some, something remarkable begins. Because it is in the unraveling that grace often enters. Grace begins when control ends, not because we planned it that way, but because we have no other choice. When our hands are no longer clutching tightly to plans and expectations, they are finally open enough to receive. It is in the letting go that we discover something far more powerful than control: surrender. And surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that we are not meant to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. The woman who lost everything found this truth not in a moment of victory, but in the ashes of her life. She had spent years trying to hold things together, to be strong for everyone, to fix what was broken, to keep smiling when everything inside her was falling apart. But one day she realized she couldn't do it anymore. Her strength wasn't enough, her efforts weren't enough, her plans weren't working. And so, for the first time, she let go. She stopped pretending. She stopped resisting, and in that surrender, something soft and sacred entered her soul. Grace. Grace doesn't always come in loud ways. It doesn't demand attention. It moves quietly, gently, like a whisper in the middle of chaos. It speaks to the heart when the mind has no answers left. It reminds you that even when you are not in control, you are not alone. That being human is not about perfection. It's about being honest with your limitations and allowing something greater to carry you through. For this woman, grace became her turning point, not because her problems disappeared overnight, but because her posture changed. She was no longer fighting the storm. She was learning to stand in it with peace. She began to trust that maybe she didn't need to have all the answers. Maybe she didn't need to understand every reason behind her pain. Maybe her worth wasn't tied to her success, or how much she could juggle at once. Maybe it was enough to simply be, to breathe, to rest, to trust. That's what grace does. It invites us to stop striving and start receiving. It says you are still valuable even when everything falls apart. It says your brokenness does not make you less. It makes you real. It allows you to collapse into the arms of compassion, to be held even when you cannot hold yourself together. And strangely, that surrender becomes strength. A quiet, unshakable strength rooted not in your ability to fix everything, but in your willingness to be still. When control ends, fear often tries to rush in, but grace meets it at the door. And instead of fear consuming you, grace reminds you that you are carried. That even when the plan fails, purpose can still prevail. That even when you are unsure of the next step, you can trust the ground beneath you to hold. The woman who lost everything learned this truth not because she was extraordinary, but because she finally let go of needing to be. She learned to live differently. She stopped measuring her days by what she accomplished and started measuring them by how present she was. She found peace not in perfection, but in progress. She learned that control was never her strength, grace was. And grace would never run out even when her strength did. In the end, it was not her grip on life that saved her. It was her decision to release it, because when we stop clinging so tightly to how we think life should go, we create space for something more beautiful to unfold. And in that space, grace begins its quiet work. storing, healing, guiding, and gently lifting us from what we've lost into who we're becoming. Number 2. Pain can polish the soul. Pain is one of the most powerful forces we encounter in life. It has the ability to break us, to bring us to our knees, to silence our joy and cloud our vision. But pain also holds the power to polish the soul in a way that nothing else can. While no one asks for pain, and most of us try to avoid it at all costs, those who have walked through deep sorrow often emerge with a strength and depth that only suffering can produce. The woman who lost everything learned this firsthand. Her pain was not theoretical. It was real, raw, and all-consuming. She woke up every day with a heaviness in her chest, a silence in her world where laughter used to be. The people she counted on disappeared. The dreams she nurtured vanished. Life didn't just throw her off course. It shattered her completely. But in the middle of that unbearable pain, something quietly began to happen. The pieces of her life didn't come back together in the way they were before. Instead, she began to feel a change inside herself, not immediately, not all at once, but slowly, through every tear shed and every night endured, her soul was being polished. Polishing is not gentle. It requires friction, pressure, and time. Diamonds are not born shining. They are formed under immense heat and pressure. And just like that, the soul requires a similar process to reveal its true brilliance. Pain, when met with courage and surrender, begins to strip away the superficial. It removes the masks we wear, the illusions we cling to, and the need to pretend everything is fine. It forces us to confront what truly matters. It deepens our compassion, sharpens our vision, and enlarges our heart. This woman became more than what she had lost. Her pain gave her empathy for others. Where once she may have walked past someone silently struggling, now she noticed. She understood, she cared. Her words carried weight, not because they were perfect, but because they came from a place of knowing. People were drawn to her not because she had it all together, but because she had been broken and still stood. Her story, born from pain, became a mirror of possibility for others. Pain also has a way of revealing what's already inside us. It tests the foundation of our lives. When everything external is stripped away, we see who we are at the core. For this woman, pain uncovered strength she didn't know she had. It refined her faith, clarified her values, and deepened her relationship with herself. She stopped running from her wounds and started learning from them. She realized that healing wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about finding purpose in it. Through the fire of her suffering, she emerged more real, more honest, and more alive. Her smile wasn't painted on. It was earned. Her peace wasn't shallow. It was rooted in having walked through darkness and still choosing to hope. She learned that pain didn't make her weak. It made her wise. It didn't ruin her story. It gave her story meaning. There were moments, of course, when she wished things had gone differently, when she missed what was lost, when she cried for the life she once had. But even in those moments, she didn't hate the pain anymore. Because it had shaped her, it had revealed who she was when everything else fell away. And in that revelation, she found her soul. Polished, not perfect, scarred but strong. Pain didn't take everything from her. It gave her a new way to live, a new appreciation for simple joys, a deeper connection to the present moment, a heart that could sit with others in their suffering, not needing to fix it, just willing to be there. That kind of soul cannot be developed through comfort. It is forged in the fire. So, while she never asked for the pain, she no longer resented it, because it had done something sacred. It had peeled back the layers and exposed the light within her. Pain, she realized, was not just an enemy. It was also a teacher. And for those who are willing to listen, it becomes the very thing that polishes the soul into something radiant, resilient, and real. Number 3. Identity is not in what you lose, but in what you become. We often tie our identity to what we have: our roles, our relationships, our achievements, our possessions. When life is going well, we feel secure in who we are. But when life takes an unexpected turn and we start to lose the things that once defined us, we're left standing in unfamiliar territory. It's easy to look around at the wreckage and wonder, who am I now? This is the question the woman who lost everything had to face. She watched her life unravel piece by piece, and for a time she felt invisible, like her identity had vanished with the things she lost. But in that painful place she discovered a powerful truth. Identity is not found in what you lose. It's revealed in what you become. At first, she grieved everything she had built, her home, her status, her security. These were more than just external things. They were part of how she saw herself. She had poured years of energy, time, and love into building that life, and watching it fall apart made her feel like she was falling apart too. Without her old roles to cling to, she felt exposed, stripped, alone. But in the silence that followed, when there was no applause, no titles, no distractions, something unexpected happened. She began to see herself more clearly than ever before. When all the noise faded, she started hearing her own voice again. Not the voice shaped by others' expectations, but the one that had always been there beneath the surface. She began to realize that she was not her accomplishments. She was not the image others saw. She was not defined by the things that had gone wrong. She was something deeper. Someone who could survive loss and still stand. Someone who could be broken and still believe. Someone who could start over, not because she had to prove anything, but because she was worth the effort. It's a humbling experience to lose everything. It challenges your sense of worth, but it also offers a rare opportunity to rebuild from the inside out. She stopped asking, "How do I get back to who I was?" and started asking, "Who am I becoming?" That shift changed everything. She didn't need to chase the old version of herself. She needed to embrace the new one rising from the ashes. That version was wiser, stronger, and more compassionate, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Identity, she learned, is not about what you hold in your hands. It's about what lives in your heart. It's about the character you build in dark times, the values you cling to when no one is watching, the love you continue to give when you feel empty. Her worth didn't diminish when she lost everything. In fact, it became more visible. Her strength didn't disappear, it just wasn't tied to performance anymore. It was in her quiet courage, in her daily decision to keep going even when the road was unclear. The world teaches us that who we are is measured by what we achieve, what we own, and how we're perceived. But the truth is, identity is much deeper than that. You can lose a job, a title, a relationship, and still be whole. You can walk away from a life that no longer fits and still be valuable. You can hit rock bottom and still rise with your dignity intact. That's what she learned. Her losses didn't erase her, they revealed her. They peeled away the surface and exposed a core that was resilient, real, and rooted in something far greater than circumstance. In time, she began to walk with more freedom, not because everything had gone back to the way it was, but because she no longer needed it to. She had made peace with her past, accepted her scars, and stepped into her future, not as a victim of what she had lost, but as the author of what she was becoming. That's the kind of identity no one can take from you. It's not built on sand, it's built on truth. So when everything is stripped away and you're standing in the middle of the unknown, remember this: your identity is not in what you've lost. It's in what you choose to become next. And sometimes, it takes losing everything to find the parts of yourself that truly matter. Number 4. A graceful rise inspires others to hope. When someone rises after a fall, it's always powerful. But when they rise with grace, with quiet strength, humility, and compassion, it leaves a mark that lingers far beyond their own story. There's something deeply moving about watching someone rebuild, not with bitterness, but with gentleness. Not with arrogance, but with calm resilience. A graceful rise is more than personal victory. It's a beacon for others. It whispers to the broken, you can rise too. It gives permission to hope again, even when life feels impossible. The woman who lost everything never planned to be an example. In fact, in the darkest moments, she didn't think she'd rise at all. She felt empty, shattered, invisible. Her world had been turned upside down, and she was left holding nothing but pain. But something inside her refused to stay buried. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, steady, and full of grace. Each day, she made small decisions to keep going, to breathe, to believe, to be kind to herself even when everything hurt. And over time, those small choices became a foundation for something new. She didn't rise by forcing herself to forget the pain. She rose by honoring it, by allowing herself to feel it without becoming it. She didn't rush to prove anything. She simply showed up for life, moment by moment. She gave herself permission to be human, to cry when she needed to rest when she was tired, to smile even when her heart still ached. And through that grace, she began to rebuild. What made her rise so inspiring wasn't that she made everything look easy. It was that she didn't pretend it was. She was honest about the struggle. She didn't wear her strength like armor. She wore it like a light, something that illuminated the path for others, not something that demanded applause. Her story didn't shout. It spoke gently to the hearts of those who were still hurting, saying, "Look, healing is possible. You don't have to rush. You don't have to be perfect. Just take the next step." Grace has a way of softening what life tries to harden. The woman could have become bitter. She could have turned her pain into a wall, shutting everyone out. But she chose the harder path, the path of staying open. And in doing so, she became a safe space for others. People were drawn to her because they saw in her the strength they were searching for. Not the kind of strength that dominates a room, but the kind that sits beside you when you're falling apart and says, "Me too," and we will rise. A graceful rise creates a ripple effect. When someone sees that it's possible to rebuild with love instead of hate, with patience instead of anger, they begin to believe it's possible for them too. Hope spreads not just through words, but through presence. Through someone living proof that brokenness is not the end. The woman didn't need to preach. Her life became the message, and it wasn't just the people closest to her who were affected. Sometimes the people who were watching from a distance, quiet observers who never said a word, were the ones most deeply touched. They saw her fall, they saw her stumble, and they saw her stand again with grace in her eyes. That vision stayed with them. It gave them a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could get up too. What makes a graceful rise so profound is that it doesn't just change the one who rises. It changes everyone around them. It reminds us that beauty can grow from broken places, that kindness can survive even the hardest seasons, that dignity doesn't come from having it all together. It comes from how we carry ourselves when we don't. The woman who lost everything never set out to inspire others, but by choosing grace over resentment, softness over bitterness, and hope over despair, she did. Her rise wasn't just her own. It became a light for many. And now, when someone else feels like they can't go on, her story speaks. Not with noise, but with truth. You can rise again, and when you do, with grace, you'll help someone else believe that they can too. So maybe today, you feel like you've lost everything. Maybe you're standing in the ruins of what once was, but just like her, you have a choice. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can break down, or you can break open to grace, to growth, to the kind of strength that only comes through fire. Because sometimes the woman who lost everything is the woman who ends up with more than she ever imagined. Not more things, but more courage, more compassion, more clarity, and above all, more grace. God bless you.